Hi, welcome to another Learn, Grow, Invest video. I'm Jermaine, co-founder for this community. Now today we have a very great episode for you. We're going to be interviewing and speaking with Tyrone Wilson, who is the founder, president, and CEO of iCreate Limited. So we're just gonna be talking to him for a few minutes to see if we can understand and get insight as to the process of what it's like to list on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So before we get to that, let's kind of do some basic housekeeping. If it's your first time here, we do financial education and literacy content. We do free classes every 3 months. We have a Telegram group that you can join us to just get that support that you will need to grow as an investor. So we really hope that you will feel free to join us. It is a safe space for you to be able to learn, grow, and invest. So Tyrone Wilson is the founder, president, and CEO of iCreate Limited. That's listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market. iCreate is a creative institute developed with the aim of filling the gap in skills training and development of creatives. Tyrone's passion for entrepreneurship and innovation has fueled the strategic growth and success of his company. His vision is to develop the region's creative economy and to make the Caribbean and Latin America a powerhouse in the digital and creative world. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Business and in Banking and Finance from the University of the West Indies. He's a proud graduate of the Jamaica College. Tyrone is the recipient of many awards and accolades, including the Jamaica Prime Minister's Youth Award for Excellence in Entrepreneurship, the private sector organization of Jamaica's 50 under 50 business leaders, and the Caribbean Journal's Entrepreneur of the Year, among other noteworthy achievements. It's definitely my pleasure to welcome Tyrone.
Yes.
How are you doing, Tyrone?
Not bad. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invite. Really was looking forward to this conversation.
Happy to be
and I really appreciate it. So before we get into really the meat of what we wanted to discuss, tell us about your background as an entrepreneur.
Well, my background, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur from as far back as high school, and even before that, I would say primary school. And I think that was inspired by my father, who always had these business cards. And his name is Roland. The business is called Rolex Trading. And he would always have letterheads, business cards. I've never seen him like being a businessman, but always have the cards. And the title on it was businessman, right? So from as early as primary school, when they asked me what I want to be when I grow up, it was two things. One, a mechanic, because that's what I know my father as. And two, a businessman. And I think the business one kind of stuck with me more. And then fall into college, and because of some challenges, I have sickle cell and got sick one semester. I almost missed the entire semester, and I said, listen, I'm just gonna go straight into business and not try and master this like first class honors stream. So yeah, that's me really. That inspired me, from early back. And then in college, the fire was there even more.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I assume that iCreate is not your first venture. So I mean, what was your first business inspiration, and then what led you to eventually get to iCreate?
Well, funny enough, when I speak with like some of my investors, or whenever iCreate is a publicly traded company, so sometimes there people have knowledge of what you're doing because of kind of your access, you being like in the public and so forth, people would feel that maybe we've tried and done a lot of different things. But to be honest, the vision um, never changed. From as early as university, I was chairman for the publications committee at UA on the Guild of Students. So I was on the executive, and I was responsible for all of the campus media, student media related things, right? So the newspaper, the Fresher Guide, we revamped a publication that was started by Delroy Chuck, I believe, when he was at UA, called the Tussle, which is the University Students Speak, Listen, Inquire. And I remember moving that from a normal black and white paper to a full uh, glossy print magazine, so my kind of media interest. And then when I just started UA, I was invited by a friend of mine who was my head boy at JC to write for the Youth Link. So I started writing for the Youth Link, but in writing for the Youth Link, I got the opportunity to really see how a media company works, right? So knowing me, I just studied that, kind of look how the different departments set up, how they make money, how they produce content, all of that. And then I got the Guild opportunity because the Guild one came, that was 2004, the Guild one came a couple years later, where I was almost now like a full-fledged media CEO, right? We had a budget of millions of dollars to produce these things. I was responsible for ensuring profitability. We had our papers being fully funded in terms of advertising revenue and all of that. So in college, I got the kind of interest there, and then I literally from that, while I was at UA, I said I'm not going to work. I want to start my own company, right? So started working on my business plan as early as then, right, at UA. And I got into this course called entrepreneurship and venture creation, right? And that was the first, that was the only entrepreneurship related course at UA at the time. They did not have an entrepreneurship degree, but I was studying banking and finance, and that wasn't an automatic course for me. I had to pitch. I went and said, listen, I went to the other department and said, listen, I want to start my own company. I need this course. I need to know how to write a business plan, everything. I remember in his office, and I convinced him, Dr. Gavin Chen, and he allowed me to do the course. Out of that course, I developed my business plan, right, for my company called L.E.A.R.N Media, which then evolved into eZines Limited, which then evolved into eMedia Interactive Group Limited, which is now coming around to be iCreate. So it has been like that ever since. But then, as you're young, 21, 22 at the time and so forth, you tried baby steps to get started. So we started out with one magazine, Your Money Easy, in which I got an investor in 2008 to invest in my company right out of college. I didn't work. I don't know what a 9 to 5 look like. Not anything against 9 to 5 and all of that, but I was just so invested in becoming an entrepreneur. I decided, I'm not going to try and pursue a job, because if I do, I might end up being it. Because anything I'm in, I like to kind of commit. So you might find I get in a job and like, okay, I love this, I'm going to commit and I'm going to be the best. And I'm going to become CEO of this company. That's how I work. So I decided, listen, knowing my passion to just continue grow and build and reach the top, I'm not going to do the job thing. I'm going to go into in my company and do the best in that. So we started out with a magazine, then that grew into a couple more magazines, and this was digital. This was all online. We were one of the first mainstream kind of digital media companies that was started in '08. At this time, it was BlackBerry Messenger, it was BlackBerry phones. There was the iPad wasn't invented as yet. The apps market was not popular. it was extremely difficult to do a digital magazine, one, for online, and two, to get on mobile devices. This was 2008. But we decided we were going to go that route. We did some research, and the Internet Telecommunications Union at the time said internet usage in Jamaica is 55%. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
whoa. But dig deeper into the info, the data, and it was pretty much they were just looking at any given time, how do you access the internet? At school, at home, at work, a friend's Wi-Fi, at a cafe. However, 55% gets to access the internet on a monthly basis, at least once thereabout.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so this is some good data. Why don't we invest in a digital system, digital media company, as opposed to a traditional one? And that is how we got, one, we're built on creativity, but two, built on the whole idea of digital. So a lot of people would call me like a pioneer in the digital field and so forth. But I think
That
I'm
sounds
right.
like you were. Sounds
Sorry?
like you definitely.
Well, in the media space, we tried, and then we got there. We started, and everything evolved into what I would say is iCreate today. There's a lot more to be done, which I'll speak about later on in the session in terms of coming full circle. But we've never kind of moved from where we started out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, to get to the point that iCreate is right now, you definitely would need to have, you know, those who are going along the journey with you, right? The right team. So how do you, go about that? Because a lot of times, we may have a great business idea at some point for it to scale and grow. We can't do it by ourselves. So
Mhm.
how do you go about, building the right team?
Well, I've had a lot of successes and I've had a lot of failure as it relates to team,
Yeah.
right? And a team for me is broader than who works with you on a 9 to 5, but your board, your investors, your, everything, the whole ecosystem of
Yeah.
stakeholders and so forth. Um, Ever since I've started out, I'm an entrepreneur that pretty much work day and night, 24/7, weekends. I'm a hard worker and I'm a hard boss. I push my team. Sometimes I push them to the limit. I try to see if they can break. I know easy or difficult is it. And sometimes that don't go down well with people who are there for a job. And especially if you're having challenges, paying them on time, and so forth as a startup, it builds a certain level of frustration. And I've been there in many different cycles because I'm a risk taker. So I'm one who don't say, who will look in the bank account and see zero, but I'm employing like 3 5 people at the same time because I'm saying, listen, we're going to get there. And these guys are going to help us get there. Does not matter the time, we expect it to happen, and then, a lot of crisis and challenges there. But I've always been good at picking the right people, whether they stay with me for a week or they stay with me for a few years. I've always been lucky to attract some very talented people who, with their support along the way, have helped us to really, it's not about me. Sometimes I would look and say, oh, man, I work for Tyrone and him not paying me on time and I'm full up in pocket. And, it's never the case. It's a situation where together we have
Yeah.
been able to make a huge impact on the digital media space in the creative economy here in Jamaica and later down within the region. So or I go about, with team. I take bet on people, especially when it comes to creativity and new technology. You do have a benchmark to go from in terms of resumes. You have to sit with someone. You have to feel. I like, I'm someone who deals with gut feeling. I want to feel as if, listen, beyond your resume, you're the right person. I've been lucky to really work with some very honest people, some very hardworking people, regardless of how the relationship ends or whatever it is. at the core of it, we've been able to do some amazing things. And it's just because of when I'm doing this, I always speak to people about the why, right? And we hear that a lot in entrepreneurship. Talk about the why. But if you don't believe the why, they'll never make sense of it. So when team members sit with you, not only you have to believe in them, but they have to feel that they can believe in you to drive what you are promising to drive with them. So I've always started from a space of partnership with the people that I work with. It's about collaboration, working together, learning together, growing together. I've learned so much over the last decade working with these different folks, in the business. And that is how I've been able to kind of build the different teams that we have. And I've had several iterations in terms of what a team looks like. And I'm now at maybe my 10th or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a part of the process. Some persons are just meant to be with the team for a season. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, because persons have different motivations for wanting to work with you. So when it's their time to go, it's their time to go. And yeah, I definitely can relate to that as well. I've actually I ran a small company a few years ago, and I remember those same challenges. Like it's payday, and so everybody looks to you as the manager to, okay, all right, I need to get paid now.
Yep. Most fearful number, 25.
I mean, it's and then I mean, if you're fortunate enough, you'll find persons who will stay with you, rough times, great times, and they actually grow throughout the life of the business.
Yes.
And those persons, I like to say they are priceless, because there's no way to compensate them for everything that they do.
I'm trying to get my light to look as good as your light.
Well, I have two lights, so that's why
Two.
Here.
They're not ring lights. I'm sure it's ring lights you're using. I'm just using.
Yeah, one ring light, one softbox to the left there.
That's
Cool. So, you at what point did you feel like, iCreate was ready to take that next step to become a publicly listed company?
Well, one of the first things I would say is that ever since the stock market, the junior market was introduced to Jamaica, I was ready. I was sold. And this, I believe, was 2008, 2007, thereabout. I was like, I'm going to go on the junior market because I love the idea of the stock exchange. My degree is in banking and finance, so I understand it and studied a lot of these things in school. So I wanted to get there, right? But in 2012, we were lucky to get some investment from Sagicor Investments to expand. Then what I would call the parent company, or the majority shareholder in iCreate today, eMedia Interactive, right? Where they invested with us 350,000 USD. At the time, it was 30 million J dollars, about 45 million today, but or 50. But we got an investment. At the time, I was 25 years old. It was one of the first type of investment where a company as big as Sagicor to invest in a young entrepreneur and a young business. The investment space is a lot more liberal and accessible today, but in 2011, that was not the case.
Yeah.
And we were able to attract the attention of some very big minds in investment banking. Donovan Perkins at the time, who was CEO of Pan-Caribbean Financial Services, which became Sagicor Investments, and then he moved over as CEO to Sagicor Bank, and pretty much helped to build Sagicor Investment to what it is today. One of the great minds in terms of investment banking and financial markets in Jamaica. And he was someone who saw me and just listen, we want to take it to the next level, we want to invest with you. So they did a convertible note with us. That was supposed to be moved to equity 3 years, 3 to 5 years, I would say, after investment when we were going to the stock market. That was the plan.
Okay.
That was in e-media. Didn't go as planned. We tried to launch our online TV platform. We launched the region's first online TV platform, the region's first Netflix, right? We created tons of content. We tried, it didn't work. That was under e-media. And then we expanded our digital magazine line of business, right? And then we started to produce content for companies, which emerged into an agency. All of this was under eMedia Interactive Group Limited. But one thing happened under the group, right? And we had a training program where we were finding individuals from Caramac, Edna, UTEC, BCAT to intern with us. And the idea is that these guys are young. At the time I was 25, they were younger than I was. They were 18, 19, 20, 21 at most. They understood digital. They had a different approach to creativity and where it would go. And I started this internship program called iCreate, right? And the idea behind that is that we were going to learn together. And that idea, when we started the internship program, we realized that we were doing a lot more training than we planned to. Like we had to be still giving them the practical knowledge. Theoretically, they were great. Practically, not so much. So I was like, well, why not start our own school? Right? And that's where iCreate came about. That's how the school concept. This was as early as 2012, 10 years ago. And then I'm a big researcher. So I started doing a lot of research on schools, creative schools. I went to SCAD, did some research, went to Full Sail University. SCAD is in Savannah College of Arts and Design in Atlanta, Georgia. Then I went to Full Sail in Orlando, did some research there, behind the scenes tour, saw how they were doing what they were doing. And it took me 5 years in terms of research and pitching to investors and everything. And we started iCreate, right? As a school. I was able to get some private funding, started with my mom, who bought 2 Apple computers for me because an investment that I pitched to Sagicor, this school idea. And it's close. Like they were like, yes, we're gonna do it, we like it and everything. And then we launched the school, and a few days, maybe a week after Sagicor told me no, they can't do it. It was devastating. I felt like a dead end. I was in my room, I was crying, couldn't believe it. But then, my mom said, listen, we're gonna do it still. She used her credit. She took out 2 computers at Apple. She and my dad, they allowed me to cash in on a small insurance policy that they had. I think I got I would say maybe 2.5 million, maybe from that. And from that now, went to a couple other people. They loved the idea. They gave us some funds. Went to the guys who own Remax, big on real estate. They were like, Tyrones real estate is what we do, but we like what you're doing. They put in some money. They put in 6.5 million, and iCreate was started, right? And when we opened our doors, it became an instant success. Our first year, we were profitable, 2017. And right then, around September 2017, I said, we're going to list this thing on the stock exchange. We're going to list it as a startup because I don't want to be running around trying to find money again. So I was like, listen, we're gonna capitalize the business properly. I'm gonna go public, and I put everything together. I pitched to several investment banks, Proven, GK, Capital, Sagicor, and another one, right? And I had all interest. I had interest from everybody. But there was a relationship with Sagicor from the bond that the convertible note that they had, which we
Yeah.
eventually converted to iCreate, right? So thankfully, I wasn't able to default on that um, arrangement, which is very important.
Yeah.
But I said, listen, we're gonna go public. Structured my board around this time. Richard Biles was my chairman for like 6 years. Um, but at this time now, he was transitioning. The BOJ situation was in motion, so he had to resign off all of these boards and everything. But I started to put things in motion, and I would say my involvement in kind of taking iCreate public was a very heavy one. I was so involved and immersed in it, from the legal to the investment to the structure to the board to the team, everything, the marketing, the position, every single thing. Quite a learning experience. And I just knew, being in iCreate and seeing the impact that we were making, almost immediately in terms of people's lives,
Yeah.
knew that this was a special business to be in. Because yes, before we were doing marketing content and advertising content and so forth, but for me it was like the impact.
Yeah.
That part for me felt empty, was missing. And we decided that we're going to do this thing because it was so impactful for our customers. It was changing their lives in front of us. We have people who do a 3-month video program with us, and then I'm out at an event and seeing them working as video producers, see them working as photographers, seeing them getting jobs as digital marketers, certified digital marketers, everything. So I was like, shit, right, my language, we're gonna blow this thing up. And that was when I said, listen, we're going to list it. I believe in it. Started the process in late 2017, and in 2020, February 2019, 25th, we were able to successfully list iCreate as a publicly traded company.
Okay. So, I mean, I know that there may be some very specific steps that, I mean, you already had a registered company and everything, but how do you take it from that step to actually now being listed? Because I imagine that the JSE would have some requirements or things that would need to be in place. So what are, at least at a very high level, what are some of those steps that you had to be sure to complete before you could successfully list?
Yeah, it is very involved, detail, and it depends on the stage of the business. So the good thing is that iCreate was a startup. So we did not list eMedia, which existed several years before, right? I would say about 9 years before that. So we listed iCreate, that's the business we wanted to put to the market at the time. And because we knew we wanted to do that, when we were registering it as a limited liability company, we registered it as a public company. So that's one of the first things. If you're trying to list a company, it has to be, the incorporation has to be as a public company. So meaning whether you do it up front with that in mind, like us, or you have to go and change it at the company's office, which will involve certain processes and maybe an EGM with the company, shareholders and so forth. And then you have to know, the kind of Bible for being publicly listed is the prospectus. That's a legal document at its core. So you need a lead attorney who is very knowledgeable in terms of structuring your prospectus. Obviously, most important thing you need is a broker and arranger for your IPO, right? And that is a listed approved brokers on the market, the Sagicors, the NCB, Barritas, GK, all of those guys. You need a broker. So you'd have to convince one of these guys that you have a company that can go to the market, that will be attractive, that will, get public interest. So you need a broker. And once you have those, of course, you have to have a board of directors, you have to have the committees. The two committees that are required by JSE Junior Market Rules are the HR and Compensation Committee and the Audit Committee, right? So you have to put those together, ensure you have independent directors that can serve on these committees, ensure you have a good board structure and balance with the board charters. You have to have a board charters, you have to have a committee bylaws and those things that govern how the company is operated. You can go as far as delegated authority from the board to the CEO, what can be done, XYZ. So all of these are some critical things that you need, right? And some in any different timeline. Some happen before the other. It's not necessarily, it has to be like this. But once you have those in place and a board that is solid in terms of experience, 1, 2, attraction publicly, the public has to say, oh yeah, I like this board, it's a good board, I trust it, because the board ultimately is responsible for the company. And 3, the type of balance in terms of a board that, especially with a company like iCreate and other younger companies, that believe in its CEO and is willing to support the CEO through thick and thin. It's critical. And then you have to now think about how you're going to get the money, how much money you want, how much you plan to give up, which means you're going to need a valuation, right? You're going to have to determine how much a company is valued at, what you're going to do in terms of how you're going to raise that funds. So like we got a valuation from PwC, right? Did our valuation for iCreate. We had to work through with our broker on the value, because the broker at the end of the day help to determine the value. It's a collaborative process, but the broker has to be comfortable with it based on their math, what they think makes sense, how many shares you're going to offer to the market, at what price. All of that is driven by the valuation and so forth. A lot of people tend to think if the stock is $1, it's cheap, but no, that's not the case. That's not what you look at, right? I just have to put that out there. A stock can be $100 and it's cheap. It's not how much money you're taking out to buy that one stock, but it's based on certain things, the PE, future cash flows, the EBITDA multiple, all of these different things. But they have to determine those. Being publicly traded, you're going to need to ensure you have a CFO in place. You have to have a solid corporate secretary, someone who understands company laws, JSE rules. All of these things are critical in going public, right? So we had to put those in place. For us, it happened fast. As I say, I was planning to go public already, so I almost have like all a draft prospectus, just in terms of the non-legal aspect of it. I'm a big planner, so I have all of these things in place. I've been working through, but that's a kind of high level, I would say. I mean, I went in a little, but it's still high level because it's very involved. But that is some of the critical things that you have to look at, and I would say timing is very important. You have to anticipate that at your best.
Okay. So, I mean, was there anything about that process that you weren't expecting? Not necessarily that it was difficult, but like maybe, when you started to go through the process, you're like, oh, well, I didn't know I needed to do this. Was there anything like that?
No, I would say so. We had a good law firm also that helped us going public, which was Married Fata, HMF, Sanya Goff specifically. We had a team So outside of just my interest and drive and knowledge, we still had a very good team. So with Sanya pretty much leading that process, she always explained to me in detail um, the steps and the expectations and what is to be done. She communicates a lot in detail. So we didn't have any surprises, to be honest. We didn't have any hiccups when our prospectus was submitted. It was almost like a done deal from the FSC and the company's office, thanks to, Sanya and her team was very proactive in terms of understanding those things. So we didn't have much surprises. I think my surprise was that the IPO took 2.5 days to close. Like, but I thought it would have closed in a minute. But it took 2.5 days, and I was like, oh. So I was over by Sagicor. I was bringing people over there to sign up accounts and buy stocks, and like calling people, call some high net worth investors to put in a 5 million and 2.5 million, things like that. But if you're the driver of an IPO as the entrepreneur, you need to have some people who, once the prospectus is out, you can call upon to jump in the IPO, right? And we had those, but we kind of, when we were doing the IPO, we tried to follow the rules fully, so we really didn't try to have too much conversation until the IPO was available to the public. So it's when it opened, or when the prospectus was out, we started having certain conversation with a lot of folks.
Okay. Well, I mean, so that was interesting that you said it, because there's this joke that we have in our Telegram group, where there seems to be this expectation that an IPO is a success only if it closes on the first day in the first minute. But ultimately, we're like, well, if you accomplish the goal of raising the money that you need to raise, and you do the things that you set out to do, that's still a great. That is to us the only benchmark
That
for
is success. Yeah. I mean, but it's Jamaica. We like to flex. Yeah.
So, I mean, went through the process of listing prospectus out, the 2.5 days close and everything. So now you're officially listed. You have the ceremony and everything. What kind of changed after that? That, I guess you can call it the honeymoon period of listing, right? Everything is feels good. Everything, everybody is interested. What happens, in the months after? What changed for you in terms of even running the business after that point?
Yeah, we didn't have much of a honeymoon. That's the first thing I would say. It's one of those weddings that you go to what they call it, down by registry, down by RG,
RGD, yeah.
RGD, right? And you get married and you're gone to work the same day. We didn't have much of a honeymoon because iCreate was still a startup. We weren't, before IPO, we were profitable. But then in expanding, there's going to be a lot of upfront costs and expenses. We had some projections that were aggressive but still achievable. Having do the right things, right? So it was a situation where we listed on February 25th, right? The quarter finishes March 31. By May 14, you need to have the first quarter out. That was a disaster quarter. We had all of the IPO expenses in it, and everything was not good. Lot of losses. People began to, you're public, so people began to start speculate and talk. And then by July, our first chairperson was out, resigned. Um, so again, bad signal, right? Um, by this time, stock price began falling. From so on the first day I traded in circuit breaker like everybody else, up 30%, normalized maybe at a dollar, because we listed at $1.01, 1.01, went up to $1.35, then start to taper down, maybe at $1.10. By the time the first result come out, everybody like what is going on, and then chairperson resigns. It was like something is not right. Uh, so those things began happening, and then by the time we had the second chairperson announced that in July, and I believe on July 4th, I remember my dates. Around July 4th, 2019, um, we didn't announce it then, but we approved the new chairperson then, right? Sent it out a few days after. Um, by August 14, Q2 is out. Q2 was a disaster again, right? And then stock price began to just nosedive. Um, and it took us, we blew through the cash because we're expanding, Mobe, Kingston, all of that. And the type of timing that we expected in terms of when we would close the IPO, pre-IPO funding, when we would complete the expansion, our entire schedule was off. The IPO didn't come to the market at the time I wanted it to. We wanted it to come to the market in 2018 late, where we could have just done the expansion and have a fresh 2019. In fact, we finished February 25th, 2019, and by the time they allocate and we get the cash and all of that, Q1 is done, right? So with the stock price, and then we weren't as aggressive as a leadership team. We were in our honeymoon mind, I would say. We weren't that like let's get going, let's build this thing, let's grow this thing. So by the time we hit September, October, we're out of cash, right? Because it was a small raise, it was 70 million. Not all of that was cash. Some was debt converted to equity. So about 24 million was debt that was already spent being converted to equity. And then the IPO related expenses were about 10, 12 million. So to be fair, we had netted about maybe 40 million in cash. And then by the time we got that cash, we had all of these payables piled up waiting on us. So maybe spend 5-6 million again, clearing off payables to have a fresh start. So by the time we hit half year, we only have like we're almost out of cash, right? So that was a kind of situation for us, and then having those resignations did not help much, So that's the kind of scenario with things.
So do you feel like, so you mentioned the stock price, and I mean, I think a lot of persons misunderstand what a startup is, right? Because I think there may be, well, do you find their expectations of the company that, maybe the investors don't understand the type of company that iCreate is?
I think that did, but not to an extent. One of the things I wanted to start, which I had a challenge getting off or through, was our earnings calls. We wanted almost immediately upon listing, every quarter when we put out our numbers, to speak to our shareholders, to have them understand the journey. I was only able to get that going in 2021, right? When we had some new directors and so forth. That was critical because, the market is all about transparency. It's all about keeping your investors informed. taking them along with you on the journey. I'm one that faces bad news as much as I face good news. I don't mind coming out and saying, guys, this is what is happening and so forth. Um, that is so critical. And I think if I created the opportunity from day one to speak to the market, some of the things we could have probably avoided. But at the end of the day, if you're not performing, you're not performing. But still, speaking with your shareholders consistently helped to soften the blow. Um, so that was critical. So people understood what we're doing. We're selling courses. We're a school, right? That's what we started out as. But they wanted to know, like, what the hell are you guys doing? That was it for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think now that you have to sort of be making decisions, trying to, so how do you find that balance between doing the things that are best for the company in the short and long term versus what your shareholders might be expecting?
Yeah, I think iCreate has done a good job in terms of being focused, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of things happened that could have thrown us off, take some different path, sell the company or whatever it was, accept some of the acquisition offers we got just to try and save face or
Yeah.
whatever. But we had a vision. We still have that vision, and our job is to power the digital and creative economy. I was the training being at the forefront of that, and we stayed with it. We stayed with that initiative, and whatever we built around that is to drive cash flow, performance, profitability for long term sustainability in terms of the institute. When you look at universities like UA, UTech, they have different units. Yes, the core is training, but they have different other for profit units that help to keep their core mission alive, which is training. So we have been able to kind of stick to it. For me, it was critical in 2020, at the end of 2020, we had our 2019 AGM a year late, not a year, but about 6 months late. But we were able to articulate a vision and a mission to our shareholders. I would say that was the first time we got to speak to them very frank, outline what we were doing. And after that AGM, the stock price increased by about 50% within a couple of weeks, right? Because people now got it. They're like, oh, yes, I see what iCreate is doing, what they're saying. We have some new initiatives. And we kept at it. And we were in COVID, and we communicated during COVID. We were the first company on the market to really put out an advisory about COVID and what we plan to do to remain profitable. Well, not to remain profitable, but to get to profitability and to ensure the survival of the company. So I find that constant communication with your stakeholders was critical, and that was very important for us during COVID, during the 2 years of COVID. And now coming out of COVID, I'm so bullish on the prospects of iCreate and, the seeing the results of what we have been doing. I'm so excited to show the shareholders, this new iCreate and what we've been able to achieve in the last quarter, what we're going to be doing going forward. Our plans are filled with excitement. We've been able to put together a new team. We have a very supportive board of directors who is behind me 100% in terms of fulfilling that mandate and mission for iCreate. So I'm very excited now to see where we're going, where we are, and what we can do for shareholders.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're definitely going to talk about future plans for iCreate soon. But I wanted to ask you before we get there, we're almost there. What's the best thing you found about being a listed company?
Um, I wouldn't even say the best thing I found, but I would say the best thing for me was to be able to inspire others. I think I've never been mom and my story. I've always been very open and frank. You know, I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up with sickle cell disease. I had my challenges like any other regular, hard-working Jamaican. And I was still able to achieve my dream of, being a CEO of a publicly listed company, starting my own company, helping others to achieve their personal and professional goals and earn income. So I create having that platform. It is, regardless of, and this, in spite of this, the challenges we've been experiencing, it's a really inspirational company. I would say, like, people are really, I interact, I bump into shareholders all the time, and just people know about iCreate, and they really love the company. They really love the brand. They believe in it. They want to see us succeed, and that for me is a fuel. It's fuel every single day. I'll have days when I'm down and out and just feel like giving up, and a student will send me a testimonial. Like just the other day, we're doing, I was just going through and coming out of COVID. I was planning with my team and said, boy, what we're gonna do and everything. And I was just kind of saying this, we need to have some more impact. We need to do this, we need to do that. And one of our past students send me a testimonial, right? And I'll just read through it quickly. Like, he
Yeah, man.
just messaged me right on Instagram, and he said, Ailing Tyrone, it's Roshan Satchel. Message you 2 months ago on my regular page. You did help resolve an issue for me. I've passed a certified digital marketing exam and is now a certified digital marketer. I'll be doing the Advanced Digital Marketing Pro course ASAP. As you can see, I am messaging you from my business page. Business is going well too. Keep up the good work you guys doing at iCreate, as it provide opportunity for youths like me to be better. Sorry, to be better, like being my own boss. And I was like, shit, like, that's good. Not a solicited testimonials, totally unsolicited and so forth. And I was like, that's what we do, and that happens every day when I'm out, interact, whether it's a student, a shareholder, or just an onlooker, someone who supports what we're doing. So feel really good about that, and we'll continue to do those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I think at this point now, based on everything that you've shared with us, if, let's say somebody's watching this video, they've never heard about iCreate before, and you could potentially have some prospective shareholders out there. Who is iCreate? Why should they be interested? And what are some of the things they can look forward to from iCreate?
Yeah, thanks for that. We're a creative group of companies, I would say, is what we're positioning now. Our core mission is to fuel the digital and creative economy. At the core of that is training. iCreate Institute, created to build skills, training to build skills amongst individuals who want to take on, the new economy. So it's in digital programs, coding, digital marketing, you know, hardcore creative like video production, graphic design, and these are short programs. So we define that from anywhere from 1 day to a year, so 1 day to 12 months. And outside of that, we're building complementary businesses that supports the type of talent that we have. So we now have our agency. We've acquired an e-commerce company. we're in the process of acquiring another company in the advertising space. Um, we have moved into real estate to our what we call our iCreate Creative City, which is to build infrastructure. Now this is physical infrastructure to support the digital and creative economy. So talking museums, we're talking studios, we're talking co-working spaces, and we have what I would say corporate investment strategy to drive cash flow. So you might say I create buying into residential real estate development just because it can boost our cash flow over the medium term. So we are looking to we have a strategy this year that we call it 2 to 1, which is 2 million US in revenues being converted into a million USD in profits. That is our mission this year. It's ambitious. And if we do achieve that, it will take us into one of the top performing companies on the stock exchange. I'm very pleased with the progress on that thus far. And, we are here to build, a Grace Kennedy or MCB group of the creative space. That's what we're doing. We're built to support and fuel the digital and creative economy.
Yeah. So I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that, creative city. Is there any sort of timeline for that? Anything, specific? Because I heard about it at, I believe, the last AGM that you had, and I've been waiting. I don't know if I missed a
No, we had an opportunity. We signed a joint venture on a development that was, it fell through. That long story short, fell through. Not reasons on our side, but just timing as it relates to the owner of the property and what we wanted to achieve, right? So that fell through, but we have a number of other opportunities lined up that we will bring to the market in short order once we're in a position to announce those. We'll ensure that we're more down. This one we're down the road. Joint venture agreement was signed. Interest was there in terms of financing. Everything was locked in.
Yeah.
Well, business go. So
yeah, man, definitely.
Back
So
at it.
there was also the e-commerce acquisition that you mentioned. I'm still learning how these things work in terms of what you're allowed to share or what you're not allowed to share.
That's been completed.
Okay, so are you allowed to share anything about that yet, or you still need some more time?
I think we had said it at our AGM. Mobile Edge, which is now Get Paid Limited, it's an e-commerce outfit. It's not just e-commerce, but we also power e-commerce activities such as messaging. So a lot of like text messages from some of the banks and credit unions around the transactions are powered by Get Paid. We're working with small businesses to bring them online and power their platforms to be e-commerce ready. Want to get people in on the whole digital currency, understanding those, and to build knowledge around e-commerce too. And just people being educated to be able to set up their platforms and grow the business. So that business is run by L.E.A.R.N. Campbell, is the CEO, and the chairman for the business. It was a business I was involved with before. There's a lot of promise, and I think it will form a big part of our growth going into, the second and third quarter this year.
Great. All right, let me pause for a moment here and take some of the questions from the chat. So Demetrius Spearman is here. He said that he's been enjoying the story.
Yes.
He asked about the future plans. You started to allude to those already. I think, someone called Derby County is asking why doesn't iCreate do an APO to raise capital for some of these acquisitions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. We have some very detailed, structured plans in terms of going to the market. Those are things we will highlight, in short, when we're able to. Obviously, there's a process in terms of board, approval, communication, and those things we have to put out there,
Yeah. All right. I think it's Felicia. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing her name well from STEM Academy. Saying it's great to hear you say how instrumental Sonia was in this whole process. She's a selfless attorney. So some good feedback for Sonia there. Demetrius is asking, is there any plans to reform iCreate into an edtech or software as a service company?
We are doing a lot of those now in terms of edtech. I mean, we have our platform. A lot of, Dominic Summers is now the president of the institute. I'm no longer in like the day-to-day activities. Form a big part in terms of strategy and working with the team. And I'm excited. We had a strategy meeting today, looking at the institute and what we're doing. I mean, we're fully like a edtech right now in terms of just how we deliver our training, the automated process, how these platforms are, the different platforms that will move to, the certificates are distributed, or digital community in terms of working with our students, communicating with our students, and so forth. iCreate, thankfully to COVID, was able to just quickly move into this new era of digital in terms of education and being more an edtech company, the institute, I would say itself. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay. So, let me see how I can phrase this question. So, well,
just put it as it is. Yeah. That's why we're here, I have no.
Yeah, man. Let me actually go back to some of the comments and we circle back to that. So Demetrius is also saying it's a good thing that we did this video because he has a business idea and he would want to venture into. So it's good to know that it's just good for him to hear what we've been discussing here. Any tips for him actually? So I know Demetrius personally. He's another YouTuber. He does great content for persons in I'd say the 18 to 30 age group, personal finance, investing, etc. Do you have any tips for Demetrius in terms of trying to bring forth his business idea?
I mean, I would say just go into it, get the funding that you need, put together the kind of pitch deck and the business concept, focus heavily on finance, the financials. A good business idea and convincing someone to invest comes from the numbers, like nothing else. I would say that the rest is just additional info. The projections, the 3-5 years, the ratios, those things are critical. Feel free to connect me with him. I have no issues giving some advice.
Yeah. I'll definitely do that. Demetrius and I, we talk a lot. I think it would definitely be helpful for him to find someone who can give him the type of insight that you can. Nyla is asking, what is the accreditation process like? So how do you, if you wanted to create your own certificate program, what is that process like?
Yeah, so we had a partnership, I will still do, with the University of the Commonwealth when we were starting iCreate, because we didn't want to get too much on the academic side of things. We're trying to create a new school which is built around being practical, disruptive in terms of how education was structured. So we partnered with UCC because they, of course, have the institutional accreditation. So whatever we do and issue is covered through that. But since then, we have also been working with our own independent kind of accreditation, working with the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission. So I would recommend going to those guys, and also the UCJ, University Council of Jamaica, who have started to accredit short courses too. So those are critical. And I mean, outside of that, set up your academic advisor board and ensure you have qualified folks that can guide you in terms of the programs that you're developing.
Great, great.
Mhm.
All right. So Rick is saying it would be great to see a rights issue this year from iCreate to fuel all the
It,
plans
it,
that you've
sounds,
mentioned.
it sounds like he's ready to put some money in.
Sounds that way as well. Sounds
Yeah,
that way. I see Philip is here as well. Philip Burgess saying,
yeah, man,
Halo.
big up.
Um, Nyla says she's taking notes from everything that you've said.
Come back to the tough question. Put it. I recommend you say it as it should.
Okay.
That's why
So
we're here.
so the question I was gonna ask, and for me, so I'll just say that I'm one of those persons who I look at what iCreate has been trying to build, and I'm personally bullish on the company. One of the questions that I had, and I was trying to find the right way to phrase it, but in light of the company's history, right? You spoke about those challenging quarters that you've had. How do you take the company to a place of sustained profitability, right? Not idea generation, not things that can potentially be great, but can we have 2, 3, 4 quarters of sustained profitability
Yeah,
from iCreate?
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the truth is, we came to the market as a startup. Um, Sustained, consistent profitability is going to come from one, mature products slash services that have gone through market tests and market acceptance, or two, you acquire that, right? So another business acquisition and so forth. At iCreate, we're doing both. Um, we're building out what we currently have, um, get it out to as many people as possible in terms of acquiring the programs, selling the programs, and then the different partnerships around keeping that sustainable. And then two, we have a new division that we spoke about at our agent called Opportunity Ventures. That is all about um, you know M&A strategy, merger and acquisition strategy in terms of getting other businesses under iCreate who are more mature in terms of their market existence and journey that can immediately form part of um, growth and profitability. But I would also say that we're an entrepreneurial company, so we want to create new ideas. We want to come with things that are different and game changing. When always we're putting out our ideas and selling our ideas. That's when you look at a company like Apple, that's how they became $1 trillion company. They never stopped innovating and being like that. So we are playing both. I think that we're at a good place now, and I'm very comfortable with where we're at now as a business and what we can achieve over the next few quarters. And obviously we're publicly traded, so I can't really speak about forecasts and forward looking.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I would say stay tuned is what I would say.
So I was interested to find out as well, is the scope for iCreate limited to Jamaica? Do you have plans to, expand? Because I imagine, the courses and the products and services that you offer could definitely be useful across the Caribbean or across, the world really.
Yeah, the Digital Marketing Institute partnership license that we have is a regional one. Before COVID started, we began expanding the footprint. We kind of pulled back, but we're going back into the space. We have students now from several markets within the region doing our program. But our ambition is a Latin America ambition. And we're not limited to Jamaica.
Okay, great. So I spoke to Dominic briefly at the AGM. He was mentioning a partnership with with Coursera. You were supposed to be, bringing on the courses on stream. That was a few months ago. How has that been progressing, or would Dominic be the best person to really speak on that?
I mean, they'll speak about it in more detail, but it's with edX, not Coursera.
Okay.
That's going. We have, been working with corporate companies in terms of those training and so forth. And we have onboarded a couple big corporate entities to work with us in terms of training for their staff and stakeholders. So it's ongoing right now.
Great. Because one of the concerns I shared with Dominic, and since he asked me to just come up with the hard questions, I'm just doing that. So, I asked him, how do you manage working with corporate clients? Because corporate clients typically want credit, and if you're trying to manage and grow cash, then working with corporate clients may put you in a sort of receivables issue that might pose some problems with cash flow.
Well, once it's a corporate entity, it's sure money. If it's a blue chip one, right? You can always do invoice factoring and getting the funds early from a financial institution or so. But the B2B, as we call it, the business to business space, is one that we're going to move into aggressively at iCreate.
Great. Okay, so we can definitely look forward to hearing more about that. So I'll just say personally, just as an investor in Jamaica in general, I would love to see more details on the day-to-day for a company. So for example, I know you may have an article that's published every few months, or the quarterly reports may come out, but maybe sometimes our persons can't connect with. So I know that you're big on having your shareholders know the story of the company so that they can align with the vision and where you're headed. If there was some way for us to get more, not necessarily day by day, but at least some touch point or sharing of information, to know exactly how things are going, how things are progressing. So we can say, okay, well, iCreate is working on these things. It's, this thing is on stream, etc. I think it would help to kind of fill in the blanks, because I mean, as you probably are aware, there's just a whole in the US markets, you maybe have too much information.
Yeah.
In Jamaica, it feels like you don't have enough information, right? So I'd love to see if possible, and I know that you're a person that speaks openly, Tyrone, but I don't know if there's some form of way or opportunity you could just communicate some of these plans ongoing to shareholders so that they can kind of stay in step with you, as these things develop. Because as I said, I'm personally very bullish on where iCreate is headed. The plans that you've shared at the AGM, they definitely sound like things that once you can execute, then they'll be very good for the company. But the last time I saw you till now, I've no additional information has we've gotten. So persons at the AGM would have heard that no new articles, no new piece of information there to say, okay, well, these things are moving, these things are
We're working.
Yeah.
No,
which is good. But you understand what I mean, right? So.
No, and I totally understand. And the truth is, we have been retooling, reorganizing. We have a CFO now that have full confidence in. Our financials are being done early. We've completed Q1 already, right? In terms of full reporting. The month just started. Our committees have approved them, right? We're working through stuff with our auditors for audited financial statement. Very efficient process. We have our budgets out early. We're tracking actual versus budget on a monthly basis. We can sit and forecast, plan effectively, confidently. So, and as you know, we've had our challenges in terms of financial reporting, whether timeliness or accuracy.
Yeah.
So I feel good that we're fixing that, right? Dwight Burchell, who is our CFO, is doing a great job, steady but sure job in terms of building that up. Ivan Carter being a new chairman for the audit committee now, former CFO for Sagipur Group, now the CEO of Delta Capital, who is also is a founder of, has been pushing us to the to the limit, like to be as efficient as we should be. And we're
Yeah.
so lucky to be benefiting from his experience at at iCreate. And then we've brought on Declan Tully, who is former CEO of a Trend Media, Loop, and those things under Digicel as our Chief Revenue Officer, who is doing a great job in terms of streamlining and putting our primary focus on revenue growth and revenue generation. And then Dominic now, I've been recently taking over the school, is just changing it, right? And the school is my baby. Started it, but I'm so confident in Dominic and his vision for iCreate Institute and where it ought to be, that I've let go the whole thing to him. And I've been working with him and his team in terms of moving fast. Like, I want you to move as quickly as you can in that change and adjustment. And I feel good about that. And then we've acquired the mobile edge, we restarted the agency. We have so many new areas. It's almost like a whole new company again.
Yeah.
But the change that I'm seeing now is one that brings great comfort to us as a business, right? We we we've hired a PR team. We're working with Procom, Jean Lurchin and Michael in terms of just the different communication plan around engaging our stakeholders in terms of what we're doing. And we've started those. We've been in the media a bit more frequent than we were before. And we're also rebuilding the brand. We've taken a big hit, right? In just terms of negative perception, whether it's from shareholders or just the general public. And it's part of the journey. I don't like attacks that are not. I like constructive criticism. I don't like baseless and senseless and malicious attacks. Sometimes you go through that, right? I've gone through it. But I like to hear when someone has a genuine concern and they just want to be informed. I'm big on
Yeah.
that. I'm accessible as a CEO and so forth. So I would say no. We've completed a quarter, and we're gonna go on a quote and unquote roadshow in terms of bringing our shareholders up to date, right, and where we are, where we're going, and some of the
Right.
things. So that's gonna come. So I look forward to being on your program, a part two, where okay, guys, iCreate has put out its Q1. Let's talk about that. We're ready for that, and excited about it.
Yeah, man, that definitely be a good thing because we actually do quarterly reviews and stock reviews here on the channel. So if we can do one for iCreate with you here, persons can ask questions. That'd be definitely good. So I'll
Awesome.
I'll schedule that with you definitely. So
Nice.
two final questions. Philip, saying he's looking forward to big things. He's
Yeah.
asking how
It's
how
a
is
top 10 shareholder.
yeah, man, yeah, man. He's
Yeah.
asking how is the return to in-person classes going? Is this still a sustainable model? And will it detract from the progress on the online side of the business that was made during COVID?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say a return to in-person class. Because honestly, Philip, we're not going back like that at least, right? We're gonna have in-person stuff mostly on the practical programs that we've been doing, the video production, the graphic design, photography. But since COVID, we've given up all our spaces. We don't have any space, right? Any physical space. But we have a solid technological and digital infrastructure that is going to be impressive for folks who want to learn online and how it's done, and the digital community where we're connecting professionals and connecting them with more courses and programs to grow their business and themselves professionally. But we'll be rolling out some physical training. We've just completed a training for Heart in video production down in St. Anne. We have a follow up with that coming soon. We have quite a few more programs that we're going to be doing practical, but we want to be able to build out the digital aspect more. As I mentioned earlier in the program, I started out as a digital pioneer. The harsh reality is that when we told people in 2017 and 2018 to study DMI, digital marketing program online, which we had full online capabilities, nobody wanted that, right? Everybody wanted to come up by 72B Oak Road and look in our faces. that's
there's always a consequence to being the one who is leading the innovation, right?
But thankfully to COVID, everybody is now willing to do something online, and we're not going back. Definitely not going back. we're going to be doing the practical programs. We can't do those online, to be honest. So we're going to be doing those in-person stuff. But I would say 70% of training is going to be online.
Yeah, because that allows you to scale and it keeps the cost of renting spaces.
Our expenses are extremely low at this point. We have a kind of progressive cost structure.
Yeah.
So it grows with revenues.
Okay. So his next question was, is Sunsplash on for 2022?
No. We're not jumping in the rush. We're waiting. We have some renegotiations we want to do with the owners of Sunsplash, Guardsman. Hopefully, those renegotiations are promising for us and put us in a good position to not only execute Sunsplash but drive some profits to the business. Guardsman is a large shareholder in the I would say the parent or the number one shareholder in iCreate, which is Media Interactive Group. So I think they will be very open to working with us to bring Sunsplash into iCreate in a way that is workable for us. So we're having those conversations with the CEO of Guardsman, Vinay Walia. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, great. I'm checking our Telegram group to see if there are any questions before we close up. I'm not seeing any, but if any does come in, we'll definitely forward them to you. Yes, Demetrius, it's definitely time to look at this company. If you have not done so already, review the financials. Take a look at the history of the company. And as I said, Tyrone, what I'll do is as soon as the financials are out, I'll give you a call and we'll schedule that review. I think it would be awesome for persons to be able to go through the financials with the CEO so that if there are any questions, then we can just pose those.
I think definitely I'm willing to do that. The rest of the leadership team will be doing our earnings calls together going forward. So we can host a special iCreate earnings call here. We speak about that. People can ask questions and just understand what is going on, as we move on this stage.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, so Nyla is asking, I think this is our last question. What is a day in the life of what's a day in the life of Tyrone like?
Stressing one, Nyla. You don't want it at all. But I'm a workaholic. I work every day. including Sundays. I love it, which is why I'm able to do it. I still have a good balance of work and personal life balance. I have a very good balance. Um, and balance don't mean equal,
Yeah.
just know how you're able to survive. So I think work is here and personal issues are there, but it involves, my kind of role as a CEO, and a lot of people will see me like having a lot of time because, I'm online, or I'm this or I'm that, but I manage a lot on a daily basis. I'm very involved in the company. As you can see, I know my numbers, I know the movements, percentage changes, the dates, the fundraise, the technicalities, the details, the high level. I'm active in all the subcommittees on the board. I mentor the team members. I'm strong on the financial side in terms of working with the team, establish, maintain, keep those banking relationships, investment relationships. Um, I'm very rounded in the company, so I try to keep on top of everything. I mean, from garbage collection to to report distribution, right? Um, because we're building a business where we need the culture. I need to be an example for everybody. I need them to understand, how iCreate is built. They need to see it happening in front of them, and then. So I'm very involved. I always have a lot of meetings. Um, Always working on strategy. It's one of my favorite words in business because I just think that's how you continue. It's like fuel. You just need
Yeah.
to have that, and whether it changes, adjustment, you need to have one. You need to know where you're going. But no, I've changed a bit in terms of just working through my team members. Right, I'm lucky to have some very good people now who have taken a lot off my hands in terms of the day to day of the company. So what I can do now is work more on the merger and acquisition strategy. We have a very big acquisition we're working on, um, and hopefully at the next call we can speak about that, right? But we I get to spend time working on the business and not in the business right now. And this is the only time I can say I'm afforded that luxury, 2022. So I'm tapping into that. I'm maximizing on that window, and hopefully it remains there. But it's a very diverse and demanding one, but I think I have a lot of room to add even more. So that is the plan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure what I do is nowhere compared to the levels that you have to do it. But persons would ask me, how they accomplish so much, and it's about the choices that you make, right? We all have the same 24 hours.
Yep.
The
Yep.
reason why I'm able to do so much is it's because it's a priority for me, and there are things that I can't afford to let slip, right? So even though we have this YouTube channel, we have work, we have family, we have persons that pull from us every day, and all of those relationships are equally as important as what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just have to find a way to balance everything. It doesn't mean that everything is great, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that everything is dying. There's this I
Yeah.
think balance is the right word. So I mean, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I saw two questions kind of creeping. Paper Plate is asking, is iCreate helping with the digitization of rural Jamaica? That's the first question. And then Philip is asking, has there been growth in uptake of programs in Trinidad?
Yeah, we've launched a free program last year called the iCreate Digital Awareness Program, and it's mostly targeting rural and individuals who haven't been able to understand and get on top of digital. So we're doing a lot of that, working. I think we have a couple thousand people in that program, free on our learning platform. It's a big thing for us in terms of giving back. And yes, there has been uptake in Trinidad, there has been uptake in Cayman, St. Lucia, Barbados, and Antigua. I just sat with my team today and I said, listen, we're getting on top of Jamaica. Jamaica is looking really good. I think it's time for us now to really get aggressive on outside of Jamaica. So you see a lot of those, and we have a specific program to Code Fellows, which is our code in cybersecurity. We see a lot more of that coming out of iCreate going forward.
Great. Thank you. I put those notes in the chat so persons can, take note of those names. And what we'll try to do is, see if we can do just a nice summary of everything that you mentioned and kind of publish it in our newsletter. So
Yeah,
thank
man.
you so much, Tyrone. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for being so open and, sharing with us frankly. Is there any final words you have for prospective shareholders and existing shareholders of iCreate?
Yeah, man. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and I'm always willing, even if it's not talking about iCreate, but just to encourage people around entrepreneurship and growth and development. It's big for me. It's important for me. I got here because of people who are willing to show me the way, and I think that has helped with my transparency and so forth. Not to fabricate or create a facade. What I would left with is buy some iCreate stocks, right? For sure. Getting that and be a part of this mission in terms of building that digitally advanced economy and country and region through iCreate. We're not. What you know for sure is that we won't give up. We're very, relentless in terms of our mission and what we need to do. So, get some of that stocks. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Tyrone. Really, really do appreciate it. We'll definitely be meeting up with you again. So, if you're watching this on a replay, just leave your question in the comments below. But trust me, when Tyrone says he is accessible, that is true. Reached out to him on LinkedIn, he responded, and we've been talking there for a while as well. Email was responsive as well. So I really do appreciate it and can vouch for the fact that he is, he makes himself available. So if there are any questions around iCreate, feel free to do your own research, speak to your licensed financial advisor,
Yes.
speak to Tyrone directly if needed. But yeah, Tyrone, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thanks, you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man, take care.
All right, take care.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to kind of mention a couple of things before we close off the video. So you do want to look out for our stock review and analysis videos. We're gonna have 2 of those per month, but in between, we're also now adding a quarterly, the quarterly earnings report review. So we're gonna start that tomorrow with Jamaica Broilers, and we're going to be doing it with. So as the quarterly reports come out, because there are 2 types of reports that you look out for from companies: the annual reports and the quarterly reports. So for the annual reports, we usually use that as the basis for the stock analysis and reviews. But we're gonna do now the quarterly earnings report analysis, because there is a sort of story that you can tell about the company leading up to the annual report that we think it is worth looking into. So I'm gonna start with the Jamaica Broilers group. You heard Tyrone said that when iCreate report comes out, he'll join us for a session to review that. So I'll schedule that as soon as it comes out, with him. So please, look out for those things. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for all the comments. Actually forgot to open in prayer, so I'm going to close in prayer now. So Lord, we just thank you so much for the fact that we're able to meet as a community. Thank you, Lord, for everyone who is here, the participation, the viewership, the comments, likes, everything. Lord, we thank you for it. We pray that you will strengthen and build this community. And we give all glory, honor, and praise to you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys. So I'll see you in the next video. Join me tomorrow. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing? Join us tomorrow for the stock and for the quarterly earnings review. And I'll see you in the Telegram group as well. All right. Take care.